let's do another check-in. Like, how are you feeling right now? It's kind of crazy. Anyway, good. I'm just checking in to make sure that we're all feeling okay and feeling more than okay, but feeling nourished. So I would propose that we begin again with 3 sounds of the bell. We'll have our second Dharma talk for about 45 minutes, and we'll all be part of this Dharma talk. We're co-creating it together. Have some lovely sitting meditation practice, maybe take another break and get something to drink or eat mindfully. Sit for a little bit, and then we come toward our closing circle. And final sounds harsh. Anyway, the closing, the closing bell. So that's kind of the lay of the land. So we'll begin again with 3 sounds of the bell. This Dharma talk is entitled Braver Things, Training the Heart for Greater Clarity, Resilience, and Joy. In the first part of this Dharma talk, we talked specifically about how to train the heart for greater resilience and for greater clarity. This training comes from the Plum Village tradition and Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. So he's given us quite specific instructions of how we can train ourselves to feel, to generate greater endurance, greater resilience, and greater clarity in our lives. So I'd now like to turn to the topic of joy. How is it that we can train our hearts in the midst of a global pandemic, in the midst of immense suffering, for greater joy? In the Buddhist scriptures, joy is one of 4 elements of love. There are 3, so let me talk about the 3 other elements first. The first is Maitreya, friendship. So we began the first Dharma talk inviting you to, in this day, to befriend yourself. What would it be like to befriend yourself? When I think about it, friendliness toward ourselves is probably the most important gig that we have in our lifetime. What would it be like to befriend ourselves? Just accept ourselves as we are. So friendship, friendliness toward ourselves, and toward other people. The second element, karuna, or compassion, the capacity to be with the suffering within us and in other people. So it's actually two parts. We recognize that somebody's having a hard time, and then we have the capacity to do something about it. So we need both. It's not enough to just recognize. We need to have skillfulness to be able to handle the suffering within ourselves and within other people. And this was largely what we discussed this morning. The third element, upeksha, or non-discrimination. Non-discrimination means we appreciate everyone alike. We don't discriminate. It doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion, but that we're not choosing our left hand over our right hand. This can be a very difficult practice. It requires a lot of skill, a lot of concentration. But the topic for today is joy, mudita, mudita. Joy feels like a big order. So it's not just joy, but in the Buddhist scriptures, we refer to sympathetic joy. Sympathetic joy, to have joy for the good fortune of another person. This again requires training of the heart. So in this Dharma talk, I will be interchangeably using the words joy and happiness. In the Buddhist scriptures, joy and happiness mean different things. But for the purposes of this talk, I'm just going to use happiness and joy interchangeably. So many of us believe that we need certain conditions in our life to feel happy. You know, Tai, our teacher, often talks about that if we have the right degree or the right partner or the right place to live, the right conditions, that then we'll be happy. But we know the research on hedonistic adaptation. That's a big word, hedonistic adaptation. We get the 10th pair of black shoes. Are we happier that we got the 10th pair of black shoes than we were when we got the 9th or the 7th or the 1st? We adapt. This is the nature of being human. Many of us have a belief that if we get rid of our afflictive emotions like rage, anger, jealousy, then we'll be happy. We'll be whole. Very dangerous path, that. Very dangerous. We know from this morning that actually the training is exactly to handle the rage like we would take care of a baby, like baby Ethan, who is part of our community today. So we know specifically that we don't get rid of the rage. We don't get rid of the anger, that we train ourselves to be with these afflictive emotions. And that's where the resilience and the training comes in. It requires skill. So we don't cultivate a beautiful garden overnight. I mean, theoretically, you could get a landscaper and they could put in all the perfect plants and it would be lovely. But my experience as being a community garden is that gardens are up and down. Some years they're good, some years they're, well, you get a couple of tomatoes or whatever. That handling all of this takes time. So we start small. But I was thinking a lot about this idea of joy and what I would say to you all about joy in the face of a global pandemic. And even as I say these words, I can feel in my heart a kind of resistance to the word joy. And so as I was sitting with that resistance this morning, the word that came to me was, it's not joy that I want to speak about. It is delight. The word is delight. How do we cultivate a sense of delight, even in a global pandemic? And here I think it is important to start small, to start humble. Delight is the near cousin of joy. We're actually in a delightful time of year, spring. So we have passed the season of Imbolc, cross-quarter day, the midpoint between the winter solstice and the equinox, spring equinox, or I may have it the other way around. So we've passed that. In many cultures, spring begins at that time, at Imbolc, when there's still snow on the ground. We're long past that now. We are squarely situated in spring. And spring is the time of the ephemerals. The ephemerals are very special flowers. They're actually quite vulnerable. They're the tiniest, often they're the tiniest flowers. You have to bend down in the grass and in the woods to see them. I myself have been walking, looking for ramps. I haven't found it yet, but I've found many other things, like watercress in a little stream, and skunk cabbage growing along the side of a bank, and Virginia bluebells, and spring beauties, and marsh marigolds. These gentle flowers are present with us right now. They're ephemerals. They'll be gone in a few weeks. Well, not totally gone, but transformed into something else. Delight is like that. Delight is ephemeral. It's transient. It comes and it goes. And the question I have for you is, can we be with what is ephemeral, the ephemeral moments of our life? Can we delight in our day? Where do we find delight? Maybe we see one moment of delight, and then two, and then four, and then six. And before we know it, we've had many moments of delight. They're moments of joy. So while we were on the break and I went outside my door and there was a paper bag, I looked in the bag and my friend Sherry offered me a moment of delight. She had a bag of camellias that she grew in her garden, and she picked them and put them in a bag and left them at my front door. So that was a moment of delight. I walked to the mailbox and I looked at the ground. And in between a crack in the stones, there were purple and white violets coming through the crack. That was a moment of delight. I didn't expect to see that. So we train our eyes, we cultivate delight, like we cultivate a garden. And then little by little, something kind of magical happens. We begin to see the light everywhere. This doesn't mean that we lose our capacity to see and hold suffering, to understand suffering, but we also cultivate our capacity to hold delight and joy, little by little. So maybe we could listen to a sound of the bell and come back to the delight of our breathing. The poet and writer Ross Gay talks a lot about delight. He's also a member of a nonprofit Bloomington Community Orchards, which is a free fruit for all and joy project. They just give fruit away to everybody. I love it. So he's not only a poet, but he's also a community gardener. And he's written a lovely book called The Book of Delights. And he wrote an essay every day for 365 days in which he challenged himself to take in, see, be with a delight. And I love what he says. I've also put in the chat his beautiful poem called Thank You. So I'd like to share that with you now. So here's what Ross Gay says. He's an American poet and professor. If you find yourself half naked and barefoot in the frosty grass, hearing again the earth's great sonorous moan that says, You are the air of the now and gone that says all you love will turn to dust and will meet you there. Do not raise your fist. Do not raise your small voice against it. And do not take cover. Instead, curl your toes into the grass. Watch the cloud ascending from your lips. Walk through the garden's dormant splendor. Say only thank you. Thank you. Ross Gay. So delight. When you came out of your mother's womb, among the first things that happened was they laid you on your mother's chest. That was delight. Many things happened. You understood oxytocin on a deep level. You understood love on a deep level. Delight cultivates oxytocin. Oxytocin cultivates delight. In the Plum Village tradition, we are advised to become aware of delight. To feel it. And so we want to offer you an opportunity to practice delight, to make it real. So sitting here and now, what are the conditions of delight in your life? As Paul Linden would say, maybe there's a person that when you think about such a person, it brings a smile to your face. That is a moment of oxytocin, a moment of delight. So I'd like to give you, offer just a few minutes to consider a moment of delight that may be in your life. You might walk outside your door and find a paper bag filled with camellias or something like that. Some surprise. You might walk and find violets in a crack. You didn't expect it. You might look up at the sky and really see the clouds. A moment of delight. So I will keep quiet, and actually our teacher advises, write it down so that you can actually see it and remember it. So actually in the writing, and remembering it helps with that hormone. So to write it down, to remember it, to think about it. And then we'll go into breakout groups of 2 to share our delight, and then come back to the large group. So just 3 minutes or so of quiet time. So please raise your hand if you could use more time with this, with your list of delights. This is the beginning of your book of delights. Do we have hand raises? Rachel, if she is our technical host. And so we're good to go.
There is someone with their hand up. I don't know if Rachel didn't.
You are muted, Anne.
I'm muted?
I think you're muted if you're trying to speak, Anne.
This is Annie. Can you hear me? Yes, some people are saying they can. Maybe you can't hear me, Valerie?
Oh, okay. Now I
Uh,
can hear you. Yes.
I just was saying, I'm not sure Rachel saw that Monica had her hand up, maybe just potentially needing more time, but it wasn't clear.
Okay. So again, please raise your hand if you could use more time. Are we good to proceed? Okay. So here are the instructions. Take a moment and breathe. Look at the list that you wrote. Read them through silently to yourself. This will help to reactivate oxytocin, this hormone in your body. Notice how you feel as you read through these lists of delights. And with that, with the energy that Ross Gay talks about, the energy of thank you. Thank you. We'll go into our breakout groups of twos, dyads. It may be one triad. I'm not sure how it's going to work. And please feel free to share as much or as little as you prefer. You don't need to share it all. Or if you would prefer to stay in the main room, that's fine too. So please feel free to do what's important for you. So Rachel, if you could, thank you. So to Rachel.
I'm not seeing a breakout room invitation again. Sorry.
Let me, I'll move you. So.
Thank you. So for these breakout rooms, let's do, I know you'll do a 1-minute broadcast.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. How long are they? Are they in this one?
Let's say about 7 minutes.
Okay. Sorry about that earlier. I was moving people around. So I couldn't multitask at the moment. So sorry about that.
Rachel, if I'm not in a room right now, is there somebody alone?
No, I moved you intentionally.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone is in with some.
I'm hearing some feedback.
Yeah, just when you talk, I think.
It's my computer. It's the top is new and it vibrates a little bit.
Oh, I see.
So just one logistical. I did put that poem by Ross Gay in the chat.
Yes, I have it and I added it to the slides.
Okay.
Plus the additional Thich Nhat Hanh quote.
And then I added after that a quote by Cheryl Strayed. Do you have that one?
Let's see. I think there was a way to save the whole chat, but yeah. Let's see. I took a couple of screenshots. Sorry. Yes, I have that. You learn a lot from yourself. Mhm.
And then Julia Jarvis added another quote by Ram Dass.
Okay. I can, yeah, so I can collect.
Oh, maybe it isn't. Okay, I don't
I did see something from Julie. Yeah,
know.
collect that too.
Yeah. Well, definitely we said in the beginning that we would share the poems and quotes and such.
Mhm, mhm.
So we have that. You're good to go. You have everything. You can send that out tonight if you wanted to. I'm just going to head to the bathroom and I'll be right back. Okay.
How you doing, Rach?
Well, how about you?
Good. I think it's going well.
Yeah. That was a very nice talk.
Hmm.
So I guess I don't need to save the whole chat, right? As long as I collect, okay.
Yeah.
And I guess I would so I would have all the slides with all the quotes and the poems, and then just add, shared by Julie or something, or Jules.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I think it's totally fine. However, I wouldn't share it in a PowerPoint because not everybody has PowerPoint.
I can make it a PDF.
Yeah, that's what I would do, just make it a PDF.
Okay, and I would share the recordings as well.
I don't know about the recordings. I'm not sure. I mean, first of all, can you get them from the cloud? Do you know how to do that?
I actually, as soon as you stop the
Oh, we're
meeting,
recording right now. Let me stop it.